The countdown to the much anticipated awaited G20 summit has begun. India is geared up to host the mega event for the first in the national capital and will be the Vishwamitra to the world, with several foreign delegates will be visiting. The government is taking all steps to avoid any misadventure. In fact, the Indian Air Force has announced to hold a major training exercise codenamed Operation Trishul. Interestingly, the drills will be carried out in the northern sector with the borders of China and Pakistan. Let's quickly tell you a little more about it. Operation Trishul will be a 11-day mega event deliberately planned from the 4th to the 14th of September. So that's what they're going to be doing. It's going to be keeping the G20 in mind. The Rafale will be pressed into play 8 to 10. That's when the G20 summit is happening. All major fleets of the fighter aircraft, Rafale, Mirage 2000, Sukhoi MKI, including the Chinooks and Apache, will be participating. It's an attempt to counter threats. The exercise will be carried out in the northern sector along with the borders of China and Pakistan. The places are Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu Kashmir and of course Punjab. Top government sources also revealing to News18 that Operation Trishul has been cleared by the top officials of the government and will be monitored by the National Security Advisor himself. That's the big news. The NSA Ajit Doval himself is going to be monitoring it. Government sources revealing the operation will definitely ramp up the security level during the period, and we will be able to identify major strengths and weaknesses of the forces before formal setting up of the theatre command. Let's give you some more dynamics there. The operation is designed to counter any misadventure along our borders. Government sources have revealed the operation has been planned with an idea that the enemies will try to show the world that India is facing a major terror problem or major issues of strife. The idea is to conduct the exercise and to showcase India's power and strength on all fronts. The government source also reveals that there are specific threats. China is already on high alert on the Leh-Ladakh side with heavy deployment for the last 3 years. Punjab border facing drone weapons and drugs on a daily basis, and line of control is facing infiltration issue from Pakistan. So it's three-pronged. But what was the reason for the government to conduct such an exercise? There have been several incidents in the past that coincided with major visits with foreign dignitaries. These incidences led to a question if these incidents were actually orchestrated or did they just happen organically. 23rd of May, G20 in Kashmir, government made last-minute changes to G20 Tourism Working Group conference itinerary after security forces found out that terror groups who had conspired to repeat 26/11 type attack in Gulmarg at the behest of the ISI. Feb 2020. Donald Trump's visit. Terror outfit Jaish-e-Mohammed released a threat video to the Indian government. Video calls for revenge and the killers would not be forgiven. Trump's visit, Northeast Delhi violence during the president's visit to Delhi. Over 50 people killed. Violence that broke over CAA. March 2000. Bill Clinton's visit. Massacre of 35 Sikh villagers in Chittisinghpura, village of Anantnag district, Jammu and Kashmir, on the eve of US President Bill Clinton's visit. October 2019, EU lawmakers Kashmir visit. At least 17 people, including 2 women, were injured in the grenade attack in Baramulla. So there are many issues like that. Sushant Sarinji is with us, and we also have Lieutenant General Syed Asa Hasnain. Namaste and Jai Hind, gentlemen. Thank you for your patience. Regret the delay in coming across to you, but your thoughts, sir. Operation Trishul, is it timely? Is India telling them, yes, it's an economic confederation, we're talking trade, but we are also watching out for any terror attacks or attack on our borders to try and derail this leadership summit? General Hasnain.
Right, thank you. First of all, Anand, thank you for inviting me for this very important show. Not that I have any inside information, but what I can do is make a perceptual appreciation, which is what we do many times in the armed forces. Yes, you're 100% right. This event is taking place, I mean, the importance of this event, if you look at it, after 40 years. The last time we conducted an event of such importance was perhaps the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting and also the NAM meeting in 1983. Thereafter, we've had the Commonwealth Games in 2010, but they were nothing compared to this. This is a huge, huge event, and it's also coming at a very appropriate moment. It is coming at a time when India has come out of the pandemic, has emerged much stronger. We are one of the few nations with a minus 24%, degradation of our economy, rose to minus 7% and has come back to 6.5%. We are the fastest growing economy in the world. The world's attention is on India, and G20 has been a very, very great success the last 1 year. India's chairmanship of it, a number of new initiatives have been taken. You see, this is the time of India coming on the scene. $3.5 trillion economy. You're looking towards a $5 trillion economy if everything goes well. When things like this happen to a nation, there are always adversaries who are at play who would not like to see that nation grow without obstacles being placed in the way. And you have brought out a number of such obstacles which have taken place in the past, so I completely agree with that. The way I look at it, before we go into other aspects of this particular exercise, I think this is an exercise primarily on the board, which is taking place, a great thinking and an appreciation exercise, as you yourself brought out, pre-theaterization, an exercise taking place, not so much physically, except the Air Force, which is perhaps doing a demonstrations, but a general alert. No one is looking at a conventional war situation out here. What you're looking at is acts which are tactical, sub-tactical at 1 minute, and in 5 minutes become strategic.
Yes.
It's the kind of thing which happened at Chittisinghpura, which is very correctly quoted by you. So you have the line of control, you've got the line of actual control with China there sitting since 2020. You have other vulnerabilities all over India. We have had this for a long time as far as terrorist threats are concerned. So it is only correct that we have to take our precautions and ensure that this particular conference goes through smoothly, because this is India's arrival on the bigger stage.
Very well said. And Sushant Sareen, let's combine all of this with the kind of search and combing operations that happened along the LOC. Infiltration bid was foiled. Now NIA has conducted raids and they've just brought down 3 or 4 modules in a multi-state raid that were planning attacks. So there is internal security issue. There is also the borders issue. And there are entities who want to derail this. They want something or the other that will hog the headlines and not India's rise and also the leadership summit. Sushant Sareen.
Yeah, so on a lighter note, I the dangers from across the borders, I have greater trepidation of what will happen in the parliament session after the G20 than, because Mr. Modi is known to be pulling a lot of surprises over people.
Yes.
And last time something like this happened, we had demonetization. So I'm keeping fingers crossed. But on this particular issue, Anand, look, I think the purpose of this exercise is one, a show of force. It is a kind of a precautionary deployment, if you will. Though this exercise was obviously not conjured up in the last week, 15 days or 1 month. There would have been a lot of planning which would have gone to have this kind of an exercise, which means that there was an anticipation that there will be troublemakers and spoilers who will try and spoil India's party for it. So at one level, this is precautionary. At another level, I think it's also a kind of a threat to countries like Pakistan in particular, that in case they were to do something like a Chittisinghpura, your Air Force is all primed and ready, and I don't know, I think all bets are going to be off if the Pakistanis are going to try something funny. Now, at one level, you can say that, look, neither the Chinese will or the Pakistanis will try anything funny, because, if the Chinese president, he still has not said no, but at least the prime minister, if he's coming, then I don't think they would want to indulge in this kind of an activity, although they've done it when Xi Jinping came in 2014.
Even in the past, Deng Xiaoping ke aane se pehle, they moved into Demchok, and there was lots of stuff they've done.
Actually, the Chinese have always done it. When Indians have gone to China, they've done something stupid, and when they have come out here, they have done something stupid. And I don't know why people attribute a lot of brains to the Chinese, given how stupidly they act. And then there are the Pakistanis, on whom you can always depend upon doing something stupid. Despite the fact that they are bankrupt. Already, there is a lot of information coming out about how they are trying to have these new narrative building factories using some of these characters in Jammu and in Srinagar to peddle their narrative. And then, you take it to the next stage forward. You try and create some kind of a terror incident. So I think there is also that danger. So a lot of this action is going to be taking place both as a precaution as well as a threat. And I think it's good that somebody has thought this through, anticipated what might happen, tried to preempt it, tried to give a warning to some of these characters that it'll be a no holds barred kind of a thing if you were to try something funny. So I think that is where we are at right now. But let us see how things work out. I think there's going to be a big party on 9th and 10th. I think I agree with General Hasnan when he says that, this is in a sense India's big moment, India's coming out party. India is actually establishing itself on the world stage as a very significant economic player, as a significant global player, even on many areas where there are disputes between various countries. Again, I think the Chinese would also try and use diplomacy to try and muddy the waters. They have given some hints on that. There will be those diplomatic glitches which will happen, but I think the Indian diplomats are pretty smart and very clued in, and they will probably have also anticipated those, and we will be working on workarounds. So all fingers crossed, both for G20 as well as for the Parliament session which is going to hold.
Everybody's imagination is just one small tweet by Prahlad Joshi ji, and see, everybody is focused on what's going to happen between 18th to 22nd. 8th, 9th, 10th now suddenly becomes less relevant. But not that it is equally relevant, and perhaps that's the shining moment they would want to talk about in that special session. But General Ata Hasnain, like you said, to move from tactical to strategic, to tactical to, absolutely, is this message also the reason why? Because the de-escalation and the disengagement in those two areas, Depsang, Demchok, has not yet happened. And there is some amount of activity expected in BRI. Xi Jinping is expected to be there. Putin is expected to be there. So are we expecting some kind of aji-baji?
See, Anand, this is a big thing happening, not just concerning India, but internationally. And we are in a very awkward situation at this time, and we are in the middle of this war taking place in Ukraine. The world is divided across virtually at the moment, with China and Russia on one side, the United States, NATO, the West on the other side. And India is, of course, a major swing power which is in the middle. Everything you see with the Chinese president not coming, the Russian president not coming, we got to appreciate that this is becoming a more of a US-India-West kind of a event, which to the Chinese, to the Russians may not want this to appear as a great success. They don't want this kind of a messaging to go to the world, that the affairs of the world post-pandemic are being managed in this manner, and that India is a major player in that. So with all this happening, obviously they will, as Sushant Sareen very correctly says, some diplomatic efforts here and there, statements here and there, leaders going to particular spots and speaking from there, as you say, about the BRI itself. All this is going to make a huge difference. But nothing is going to be bigger than an act somewhere against the interests of this particular event. Show India in poor light. And this need not happen in Delhi. A lot of people who may not be primed on security affairs may think that it could happen in Delhi alone. No, this can happen all over. And not only here, it can happen around the world. It can happen on Indian facilities around the world. It can happen on an Indian ship somewhere. It can happen on an Indian embassy, like it's happened with the Khalistanis in Canada or in the UK. Any of these places, it can happen. The idea is symbolism. It is symbolism, sending home a message that you may be thinking that you are catch whiskers, you are a power which is to reckon with, but here we are showing you your weakness to the entire world. That is the kind of messaging
I think it should be
prepared.
important to also have perhaps a shoot at sight or grab at sight order for any of these miscreants who try to do some aji-baji at the airports also. Some cryptic messages have come from these goons, and they've tried to do it with the metro stations. They now want to, they're making calls for the airports. There should be some serious counter there, and there'll be no corners cut, or the hard hand of the law needs to fall on them. Thank you very much, General Hasnain, and also Sushant Sareen. Thank you very much. Short but very engaging conversation.